is not perfect. It's all right, but it's not fluent. It's not perfect. I've been living in Korea for 8 years, and I've accepted that my Korean's not going to be perfect, probably for the rest of my life. I figure I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's been in the U.S. for 40 years. He's become governor, and he was a big Hollywood star, but he's never managed to shake his accent. And that's something that kind of gives me a little bit of insecurity, not having perfect Korean after being here for 8 years. I'm subjected to an involuntary TOEFL, I guess, test of Korean as a foreign language, TOEFL, every time I step into a taxi. I get into the cab, and then I give them directions in Korean, and then their reaction is always like, they check the rearview mirror and just kind of like look at me, and they're like, oh, 발음이 좀 이상하네요. Like, oh, your pronunciation's kind of weird, or 한국 사람 아니죠? You're not Korean. Or they'll say, 뭔가 이상하다. 왜 그렇게 말해요? Why do you talk like that? And it makes me feel a little bad. And anyways, this all came to a T about 4 years ago when a friend of mine, she's my most successful friend that I have from the U.S. She's a big executive at ABC television in New York, and she was coming to visit me, and the last time that I had seen her, I had made a giant ass of myself at her wedding because I was drunk. And so, it'd been years ago, but now was my chance to see her again after all these years, and I wanted to make a good impression and show her that I was doing okay in Korea, that I'm now a man of means, and I'm not that drunk asshole that she had seen years ago. And so I decided that I would buy her lunch at the Imperial Palace Hotel. Yeah, but I was running late that day. And so it was just about a block and a half away from where I was, and just kind of a straight shot. But because I was running late, I decided to get a cab. So I stepped into this cab, and as soon as I step in, I'm sure you can all relate to this, it's one of those old cabs that just reeks of embedded cigarette smoke that's just in the upholstery and the vinyl. And it wasn't just that scent, there was another scent, and that was from the cab driver himself, who looked kind of like a larger, fatter, younger, more burly version of Kim Jong-il. There's this big guy who's driving the cab like this, and he looks right, and he just reeks of like 3-day-old, I haven't washed myself, just body, or just wafting over. I step in the back of the cab, I'm all kind of dressed nicely, on my way to see my friend, I'm already late, and as soon as we go for a little while, then there's just standstill traffic, and we're only about a block away. But I know kind of the 골목길을. I know kind of how we can, if we make a right over here and go to this side street, then we can make it. And so I tell him, like, oh, up here, I know that we're almost standstill, but as soon as we get to that one little alley, please make a right, and then we can just, it'll be fine, and I can navigate. And they always hate that. They're like, oh, if we go into the little side street, then we're going to be trapped, and all. They don't want that. And so I said, please make a right, trust me. And he's giving me the shtick. He's like, 한국 사람 아니구나. And I just, and he's like, 발음이 왜 이렇게 이상? 아니, 얼굴이 한국 사람, you look like a Korean person. But when you speak, it's you have such a thick accent. He's saying all this in Korean. I'm kind of translating on the fly. And so I was like, yeah. And so he's just like, the thing about the Korean language that you have to learn is that there's so many different ways of saying the same thing. For instance, for something that it's hot, you can say 매콤하다, 맵다, 얼큰하다. And as he's saying this, he passes that alley. We passed by it. And so now we're still stuck in traffic. We haven't gone to the express alley that I was hoping. And I was like, why? You didn't make that right turn. Why didn't you do that? We're still just stuck in traffic. At this point, the only way other than that alley to save us, to get us through this area fast over to the Imperial Palace Hotel, would be to go on the sidewalk, which would be illegal. And so he tells me, he goes, oh, because that was a one-way alley. And yeah, it was a one-way alley in the direction we wanted to go. It would have been fine. And then he's like, well, I can't understand the thing you're saying. And I said, 우회전 해주세요. 우회전, that sounds different from 좌회전 해주세요, make a left. It sounds different from 직진 해주세요, go straight. 우회전, that's not that. I mean, no matter how weird my act, no matter how gringo it is, it's not going to be that bad. So I'm getting frustrated, and he's going on. He's like, you sound kind of like those Japanese tourists who come here And those ajumas who learn Japanese really well because they're in love with the Super Junior or and they love them, and so they study Korean really well. They come here. You sound like them. I was like, okay, 기사님 그냥 나 좀 빨리 가야 되니까 can we please go? And in the meantime, I'm getting text messages from my friend who's already at the hotel, and she's like, I'm sitting here at the buffet restaurant. They're telling me about the closing time when they stop serving. Or when are you coming? I'm just like, okay, good. Please, can we just go? And he goes, you know what? It's not that. You actually sound more like those guys in the white, with the black tie. And I was like, I don't, what? He's like, yeah, because you have good vocabulary, but your accent is so thick, I can't understand a word you're saying. I don't know what you're talking. With the black tie and the white shirt and that. Are you talking about the Mormons? Yeah, the Mormons. You sound like them. Exactly. I have some Mormon customers. You sound just like them. They have good vocabulary, but the bottom is so weird. I'm getting so frustrated. Okay, so at this point, I was just getting so angry, and I just wanted to say, "Shut up," and go. And as the cab driver said, there are several ways to say "shut up" in Korean. You can say "조용해," which is just like "be quiet." You could say "듣기 싫어," which is just "I don't want to hear this." You could say "시끄러," which is "you're being noisy." And any of those would have been better than what I ended up saying at that point. Because just in my anger and my just desire to translate something as quickly as I could, I said, "닥쳐, 씨발." 닥쳐 in itself is shut the fuck up. Adding the 씨발 is like saying, fucking shut the fuck up. Okay. At which point, the taxi driver adjusts the mirror and he looks and so I'm just seeing his eyes. His eyes get really big. This is the big, younger, burlier Kim Jong-il, remember? Looking at me, and he goes, 뭐라고? 당신은 조심해. You better be careful in what you say. And then so now I'm just like, well, would you just please go? And so I'm stomping on, I was in the back seat, so I'm stomping on that armrest, that armrest / fan thing, the little center console. I'm stomping on it, going, just go, 그냥 가. And then at that point, my foot slips a little bit, and it goes over it, and then it goes dink, and it hits his elbow. At which point he goes, you just assaulted a taxi driver. Now at that point in Korea, there was something going on with a lot of bus drivers were being assaulted by drunken passengers, so they had changed the law. They had made a law with really huge penalties for if you assaulted either a bus driver or a cab driver. And so at this point, he's like, you just assaulted a cab driver. I'm taking you to the police station. And so the guy who was so afraid about making an illegal right turn, all of a sudden is on the sidewalk. And we're going faster than we had. He's on the sidewalk, going straight up and I'm kind of excited because now we're getting somewhere, finally. People are jumping out of the way. And then finally we're on a major street. And I was glad because I'm like, okay, we're getting closer to the destination. And then I noticed that he's going away from the hotel. We're going the wrong way, and he's speeding. He's going probably 5 times faster than the speed limit. And I was like, where are you going? He's like, I'm taking you to the police station. And so I was like, no, you got to stop. I'm getting out now. And so I start opening the door. I push it open, and every time I do that, he speeds up. And so it slams back shut. So I open the room, it slams back shut. And I do that a couple of times, and each time we're going faster and faster and faster. And now we're just, it's like a car chase in a movie, except nobody's chasing us and we're not chasing anybody. At that point, the only thing I could do to save my life, I grab in front of me, in front of that console that I kicked, I grab that parking brake and I go, and it's just sticking straight up. It's just like big time Viagra action. It's just straight in the air. Is this parking brake, and we come screeching, the rear wheels lock up, we come screeching to a halt, there's smoke behind us, it just smells like burnt rubber, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm still alive, because I thought he was going to get us killed. I step out, and I'm just kind of like stumbling over to the sidewalk, and then I look over, and he's running after me, screaming in Korean, that guy left without paying the fare! Now remember, this fare was at that time like 1900 won, the basic fare, because it was just a block away. He comes over towards me, he tackles me, and this guy's huge and sweaty and smelly and gross. And all of a sudden he's on top of me, just all that body weight. I'm just like, oh, and he's just got his thighs around my neck and just his big testicles are just in my face. I can just see the stretched taxi uniform. It's just, oh. People are walking by asking me, are you okay? And finally I just say, please call the police. He called the police, some passerby called the police, and next thing I know, we're in the police station. We're each giving our reports of this story. He is saying that I assaulted him. And he says that I kicked him, that I punched him, that I did all this kind of stuff. I'm just saying he tried to kill me by driving way too fast. And also he tried to assault me with sweaty balls kind of thing in my face. Smother me. I make a few phone calls to some friends, and they tell me, well, what you got to do in this situation, there's a thing in Korea, and for any of you who haven't been in this situation before, you got to remember this, it's called hagwi, which is like a settlement or a compromise, an agreement. So I had to give him 100,000 won, about $100. And I was pissed about this, but I gave him 100,000 bucks, and then, 100,000 won, and then all of a sudden, he's like a kid during Christmas time. He totally changes from this cantankerous, angry taxi driver to like, oh, thank you. I'm so sorry that I had to bring a young guy like this into this police station kind of environment. For an old guy like me, it's fine, but for a young guy, it's all wrong. And we shook hands. It was over. And I was pissed after that. I was really pissed. But then, ever since then, because I still have to take these taxis all the time, this was my turning point. I had like a slight mental adjustment. So that when I step into a cab and people criticize, the cab driver criticizes my Korean or makes me feel a little embarrassed by it, instead of feeling angry, instead of feeling insecure, I just lift up my chin and I say to myself, you know what? My Korean must be pretty damn good if I sound like a Mormon. Thank you.